Agrobiodiversity. The diversity occurs in the agriculture crops is called agrobiodiversity or agriculture biodiversity. See, agrobiodiversity mainly following steps. First one is introduction to agrobiodiversity. Second one, benefits of agrobiodiversity. Third one, laws of agrobiodiversity, and best practices of agrobiodiversity or enhancement of agrobiodiversity. These are the main steps in the agrobiodiversity. First, we discussed about the introduction to agrobiodiversity. Introduction means all the component of biological diversity associated with food and agriculture, and all components of biological diversity that related to agricultural ecosystem. The variety and variability of animals, plants, and microorganisms at the genetic, species, and ecosystem levels, which are essential to sustain key functions of the agroecosystem, its structure and processes. Mainly the agrobiodiversity shows different types of variation crops, different types of variations in the agriculture. That agriculture biodiversity mainly focus on some animals, plants, and microorganisms. These animals, plants, and microorganisms are at the genetic, species, and ecosystem levels. Now, the introduction of biodiversity, introduction of agrobiodiversity is mainly focused on dimension of agrobiodiversity. Dimension means the structure of agrobiodiversity. The structure of agrobiodiversity having following major steps. One is genetic resources for food and agriculture. Second one, components of agrobiodiversity that support ecosystems, functions, services which related with agriculture. Third one is abiotic factors. Fourth one is socio-economics. The first one is genetic resources. See, based on the genetic resource, we cultivated different types of crops for needed food and agriculture economic importance. In economic importance of agriculture, biodiversity, we cultivated different types of plants and animals, microorganisms. They are cultivated as a normal cultivated plants or domesticated species, and wild plants and animals. These are having different types of genetic codes, like plants and animals, microorganisms having different types of genetic codes for the needed food material and needed things in the plant body or in the animal body or in the microorganisms. They are mainly wild plants or wild animals, cultivated plants or cultivated animals. The next one is ecosystem services. That ecosystem services mainly depend on the biod or living organisms that support to ecosystem services in agriculture systems. That ecosystem services done by the living organisms like pollination, water and nutrient cycles, decomposers, and pest and diseases regulations. These are the ecosystem services by the biod organisms. Biod means living organisms. Like pollination done by the different types of factors in the plants. If pollination will be completed, that ovaries are converted into fruit. So if pollination will not occur, so that ovaries are not converted into fruit. Water is the major source for the every living organism. Nutrients are also major source for the every living organisms. In the nutrients in soil and environment, they are repeatedly produced by the ecosystem services. And the decomposers also play major role for the dead bodies of the plants and animals. They are decomposed the nutrients into the soil, into the environment. from the dead bodies of the plants and animals, and pest diseases regulation. It is also major source for the ecosystem services. The next factor is abiotic factor, non-living factors that affect biodiversity, agrobiodiversity, like climatic factors, chemical factors. Climatic factors means light, temperature, air, soil. These are also called climatic factors. Chemical factors means nitrogen, phosphorus, carbon, oxygen, sulfur, manganese, magnesium. These are the chemical factors present in the ecosystem services with the abiotic factors. The climatic factors play major role for the agrobiodiversity. At the same time, chemical factors also play major role for the development of agrobiodiversity. The next last one is in introduction of agrobiodiversity, socio-economics and cultural points. The socio-economics and cultural dimensions includes traditional local knowledge of agrobiodiversity. Traditional crafts, local knowledge of crafts are mostly cultivated in the different areas called agrobiodiversity. And cultural factors. Cultural factors also, it is related to the agrobiodiversity. And tourism, ecotourism are also called agrotourism with the agricultural landscapes. If we cultivated different types of varieties on the landscapes, different types of varieties on the soil, they are called landscapes. If the agricultural landscapes are produced with different types of crops, different types of food material plants, they are mainly helps in the agrotourism. That agrotourism is also called ecotourism. These are the components of introduction of agrobiodiversity. And the next second topic is benefits of agrobiodiversity. See, benefits means uses, values of agrobiodiversity. See, agrobiodiversity play major role for the human life and all living organisms. So, in that, source of food and nutrition is the major point behind the agrobiodiversity. Source of food and nutrition. The nutrition, food for the human, livestock, and cultivated plants. And medicines and health values. See, based on the Ayurveda, we collect different types of medicines from the plants. It is mainly helps in the good health. The good health done by the agrobiodiversity by producing of medicines by the plants, some animals. Ecosystem services, the pollination and food chain. We know pollination, it is the major source for the fruit formation. If fruit formation will appear in the plants, automatically the food is prepared by the plants. And food chain. In food chain, every stage, every trophic level play major role for the needed food material. Producers are prepared food material by the photosynthesis. Consumers are consumed food by the different types of consumer levels. And carnivores, top carnivores eat flesh from the different types of herbivores and carnivores. And genetic resources also important for the agrobiodiversity. The plant and some animals containing different types of genetic codes for the needed food material, for the needed nutrients. And the knowledge is also called taxonomy. If we easily identified plants and animals based on the knowledge, they are classified into different types of groups, families, divisions, orders, genus, species, based on the knowledge of these animals and plants. It is also called taxonomy. And economic values. Economic values also important for the agrobiodiversity. Important for the agrobiodiversity. We cultivated different types of plants and domestic animals for the flesh. They are exchanged in the local market. So the human beings get good income by the exchange of the plant and animal materials. And socio-economic to support livelihood. These are the socio-economics. These are mainly benefits of the agrobiodiversity. Cultural supports. Cultural supports means they are different. They means human beings are having different types of festivals. That festivals are based on the agrobiodiversity. The next one, loss of agrobiodiversity. Mainly the biodiversity is also having some threats, is also called loss of biodiversity. They mainly focus on the following points. One is habitat loss. Habitat loss means by the living organisms like agricultural plants and animals, they have own place for the suitable life cycle. That suitable life cycle completed on their own place. If that own place is completed or lost or any threats, so it is also major loss to the agrobiodiversity. Means some plants are comfort with some soils, some animals are comfort with some zones, some areas. That areas are called endemism. If the endemism places are in the disturbed conditions or in the lost conditions, automatically the agrobiodiversity is also lost or in threat condition. Deforestation is also play a major role for the loss of agrobiodiversity. Deforestation, by the deforestation, ecosystem is imbalanced. Ecosystem imbalanced means environmental factors are damaged, so automatically it's also threats or lost the agrobiodiversity. Overgrazing, overgrazing means herbivores are overgrazing on the grass. Automatically the grass plant population will be reduced. So in coming days, herbivores, they cannot collected food from the grass plants because they are in overgrazing condition. Unsustainable farming, unsustainable farming means different types of unwanted plants, unwanted crops are cultivated in the unwanted ecosystem, uncomfortable ecosystem. So it is not comfortable for the agrobiodiversity. And population boom, population boom is also play major role. It is the major part of loss of agrobiodiversity. The population will be increased, automatically the need food material. For the needed food material for the population is depend, populations are depend on the all types of living organisms. So the food material is not collected from the different sources for the populations. So it is also major threat. And global warming, global warming is also major threat or loss to the agrobiodiversity. By this loss of agrobiodiversity, environmental pollution will occur. Deforestations, overgrazing, global warming, climatic changes, harvest, over harvest, desertification, ozone depletion, natural disorders. These all major causes or factors of the agro biodiversity, loss of agrobiodiversity. These are impacts. By these factors and causes, impacts are population decreasing, soil nutrients deteriorate, and damage to the DNA, influencing animal and plant growth, morphology, biomass accumulation, effect on the reproduction, reduce the reproductive success, and the disturbance of food web. Disturbs of the food web. The food web is distribution. Disturbed the food web is major threats to the biodiversity. And the last, how to control, how to enhance the biodiversity is also called best practices. By the enhancement or conservation of agrobiodiversity, mainly done by the good practices of the steps like organic farming, organic trade products, integrated pest management, seed bank systems, practicing good farming management, species combination, enhance productivity and yields, promote diversity of crops, pollinator management, maintenance of wild patches of vegetation of farming, minimal soil disturbance, promote a healthy, diverse and soil community, integrated livestock in crop production system, application of biological controls by the natural pest control management, alternative policies for agriculture, research and education, market value and these strategies. Strategies also, these are the major source for the good practices for the agrobiodiversity. If these practices or occurs or implementation in the agrobiodiversity, automatically the agrobiodiversity is good condition. Organic farming, they cannot use chemicals, different types of chemicals for the cultivating of crops. So these naturally used some organic components for the cultivating of crops. And integrated pest management, different types of integrated pest managements are applicable in the agrobiodiversity. And seed bank system, see which quality of seeds are used in the agrobiodiversity. They are produce different good quality of harvest. And practicing good farming management, then good farming management is also applicable for the good practices for the enhancement of agrobiodiversity. And the species combination, we cultivated only one species naturally, but it's not important, it is not healthy condition for the good practices of agrobiodiversity. We cultivated different types of crops. The species combination is also play major role for the enhancement of the agrobiodiversity. And the promote diversity, promote diversity means it is also called crop rotation, or also called alternative policies for the agriculture policies. Means we cultivated different types of crops in the rotation method. And we encourage the pollinator management. Pollinator management is also play major role for the agriculture enhancement. See, pollinator factors insects, birds, like different types of living organisms. And maintain the wild patches, vegetations for the farming. Minimal soil disturbance, we use different types of soils for the cultivation of agriculture. So that soil is compulsory disturbed by the cultivating of crops. During the cultivation, maintain the minimal soil disturbance, promote and healthy diverse soil community. These are the main process. And application biological controls. Application of biological controls are mainly implemented by the natural pest control methods. We cannot use the chemicals for the pest controls. We used biological methods for the control of the pest. And alternative policies. See, alternative policies means which crop having more price and good yield they are is cultivated in the different types of soils. Research and education is also play a major role. So research, by the research we have one idea about the crop for the harvest. It is done by the education. And market value strategy is also important. Market values means which crop is having more value in the social market, in the local markets. That strategies are mainly helps for the increasing of agrobiodiversity. It is the mainly focus on agriculture biodiversity. By these methods, agriculture biodiversity is in healthy conditions.